Good morning, everybody. Hi, hello. Thank you for joining this morning, and thank you to Wella Canada West for having us live today. My name is Nichelle Desautels, and I am a field education trainer for the Wella Company in BC. Today, we are going to be talking about all things Color Renew, which is a product that I love and love having in my arsenal. And to help me go through that today, I have my amazing coworker joining me, and I'm going to bring her in and let her do her own introduction.
Good morning.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Hi everybody. My name is Zeina El-Sherif, and I'm a field education trainer as well in Calgary. And yeah, I'm so excited about Color Renew.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Color Renew before we get started?
Okay, cool. So Color Renew is a color reducer. So it's not a bleach. It's not going to remove or like lighten the hair. It's strictly a color reducer, and it's going to work on oxidative permanent pigment. So it's designed to go into the hair and uncouple those permanent color molecules and rinse them out. And this really allows us for more easy color changes. So I have it right next to me because I didn't know if you would have it, Nichelle.
No, good call. That's awesome.
So there's two parts to Color Renew. So the first part is going to be this sachet. And they're just like these little packets here. And you mix this with the Color Renew activating liquid. And the sachet is going to be vitamin C, and the activating liquid is citric acid. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, that was a great introduction to Color Renew. I'm excited to see what you have in store for us on your mannequin today.
Yeah, so on my mannequin, now here, I'll bring my mannequin over so you guys can see here. Let me attempt to lower my camera.
Always with technical difficulties, right?
You're right. Let me know if you can see this or if it's good,
Yeah,
because I
we can
know
see.
to move her around here. But yeah, there's a lot going on in this mannequin because we're going to show you guys some examples. But we're going to show you guys some examples of uncoupling these permanent color molecules. Now, let me turn the light on. Can you see that better?
Yeah.
There we go. So we've created 4 different scenarios on the head here, in which case we can use Color Renew. So why don't we start with the first one here? So the first one on this side, this is an example of maybe like someone's toner going too dark. This is an example of like, yeah, something's gone too ashy or too dark, and we need to kind of uncouple and remove some of these molecules so that we can adjust her color and her toner.
So that is your kind of too cool section or overtone section, correct?
Yes, yes.
Now, do you want to tell us what you used on that section?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I used Illumina 7-stroke 8-1, 7-stroke 8-1 with half silver mauve. And that really just overashed her. I mean, this is a great color if you want a gray, but this
Yeah.
client wasn't going for a gray. I accidentally overtoned her by mistake.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
I have my Color Renew mixed up here. I've chosen to mix it in a bottle, and I'm just gonna give her a mix. And Color Renew is a really great gel-like consistency, and it's a really easy application. So I'm just gonna show you guys how we're gonna apply this.
So you can apply Color Renew with a bowl and brush as well. Zena's shown to use a bottle just because, and I personally like the bottle application as well, just because the product can be quite viscous, meaning kind of runny. So you do get a nice quick application with the bottle, but if you're a bowl and brush kind of person, you can always use a bowl and brush.
Either or. I like bottle because it's fast for me.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I'm just gonna put some Color Renew on this one side here.
Awesome. So we're kind of showing you guys what this would look like in action if we were doing kind of our first application that we can do with Color Renew. So we have 3 different applications that we traditionally use Color Renew for. And the first one is a color adjust. So this is applied for 5 to 15 minutes on the hair. It can be applied on dry hair or it can be applied on towel dried hair. This is really great if you've had a toner over process, or someone, said they wanted to be gray and ashy and then decided, oops, they don't want to be gray and ashy. How often does that happen, right? So any kind of those quick oops that you need to kind of correct in the salon, using permanent hair color, this is a great application for that.
Yes. If you guys have any questions about this, throw them up in the chat. We would love to answer them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can use your question cards or the chat, either or. I'm watching.
Yes.
We do have one comment here from Terry. She says she loves Color Renew.
Hi, Terry. Oh, my Siri just heard that. Yeah, so this is, like Nichelle said, it's such a great way of easily correcting something. And it's pretty quick too, like 5 to 15 minutes. I'm sure this doesn't need to be on for any more than 5 minutes in most cases. And this is really just going to go into that hair and uncouple those permanent color molecules and rinse them out and allow me to retone her afterwards. So rather than having to go back in and like lighten her all over again, or like, you know what I mean? Like, this is just such a quick and easy way for a quick fix. And another reason why I like using Color Renew in these scenarios is if I had done highlights on her and this toner had gone too ashy or too dark, if I went in with a lightener, that lightener might start to lift her natural in between. Whereas Color Renew is only going to be effective on oxidative permanent color molecules, which means it's not going to affect the hair's natural melanin, which is my favorite part about Color Renew, that it doesn't affect the hair's natural melanin. So you really don't need to be like super precise about your application. You can literally just put it all over the head and it's only going to affect those areas that it needs to affect. It's not going to start lifting the natural and creating another problem and another scenario for you to fix. It's only going to take out that color that needs to be removed.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a great call out. I mean, when we talk about Color Renew being a reducer and not a remover, that means it's, it's not persulfate based. So that means it's not going to act like a lightener. It's not going to create lift. It's not going to lift our natural melanin. So really, it's going to be a safe, damage-free way of correcting that overprocessed toner.
Yeah, and such a fast application. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, but I mean, let's do another area.
Yeah, so, that was about 4 minutes it took, yeah.
Right? And I know that was just on a small piece, but imagine the whole head. That wouldn't take much time at all. So our next scenario would be a situation where, sorry, I'm trying to be really awkward with hair. Our next scenario would be a situation where maybe this client who is red wants to change the tone of her hair. So she's been red for a while. Maybe she wants to change the tone of the red, or maybe she wants to change it to a brown. So Color Renew is going to uncouple and reduce some of those permanent color molecules and allow those molecules to rinse out so that I can change the tone of this color. So I'm actually just going to give her a little split and apply that again.
Awesome. So we have a couple questions here, Zeina. The first question we have from Nichelle: would it work on black box dyed hair? And that's a really great question, Michelle. We actually do have a scenario kind of coming up for the next scenario for that. And the answer is yes, depending. It's always going to depend on how many layers of color there is, what they've been using at home. Is that permanent? Is that box black dyed hair permanent hair color? So there are kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, Zeina? Help me.
I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what word you're looking for, but I would agree with you. But I think, yes, it will work. It will uncouple some of those permanent color molecules. You may not see like a physical difference. Like, you may not be like, oh, I can see that it has changed. But if someone has layers and layers and layers of black box color on their hair, that's why you may not see any difference. Some of those molecules are going to be uncoupled and like reduced out of the hair, which will allow for an easier change. If someone has black box color and they want to go lighter, you're most likely going to be using some sort of bleach or lightener. However, like Color Renew is going to make that application with that lightener so much easier because it's reduced and removed. I don't know if I want to use the word remove, but it's reduced some of those permanent color molecules. So it really depends on how many layers there are to that black box color. And yeah, I'm not sure what word you were trying to go for there. So I just
No
made up my own
worries.
little thing.
No worries. And that's a great way of explaining it. You know, Nichelle kind of followed up with saying stubborn question mark. And I think what you mean usually when a box black color is stubborn, that usually means that client has layers upon layers upon layers of box dye on there. Color Renew is definitely going to help you in that scenario. And I always say, you know, it might be your first step to color correction or correcting that black box dye. Sorry, guys. But it's not going to be your last step, right? And like Zeina said, you're not going to see visual lift. We're talking about a reduction of pigment, not visual lift. So is it going to make the lightening service that you have to do after easier? Yes. But are you going to get lift from Color Renew? No, you're just going to get a reduction of pigment. So I hope that answered your question, Michelle.
It might make things a bit more clear when you see the difference on the mannequin. Also, yeah. Hi, Michelle. I used to work with her at the salon.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Back at the old salon.
So we have another question from Terry here. It says, in what scenarios do you only rinse out or do you shampoo it out every time before recoloring? Thank you.
Good question.
And that is a good question. And thank you for your question, Terry. For that, and so when we look at the instructions of Color Renew, it does say to just rinse really well and move on to the next step. Now, for me, I personally like to have a little bit of insurance, and I always shampoo after I use Color Renew just to really make sure I've gotten all those pigments out of the hair. Because what can happen is if you don't do a thorough rinse and you don't get all those uncoupled pigments out of the hair, if you go on to a next color service, you could potentially recouple them and end up with the dark color that you had initially before. So I always like to give it a good, not a vigorous shampoo because we don't want to stimulate the scalp before a color service, but a shampoo just to kind of make sure I'm cleansing anything that might be stuck in the cuticle off and then giving it a good rinse. What about you, Zeina?
Yeah, I know like the instructions of Color Renew are like, you just have to rinse, but I always shampoo. I don't know. I just like to shampoo and nothing bad will happen if you shampoo the hair. So I just go in with the shampoo.
Yeah. Awesome. I hope that answered your question, Terry.
What's also really great about Color Renew that I just realized, well, not just realized, that I just started thinking of because I'm using it right now. And I know you guys can't experience this if you haven't used it, but it doesn't smell, which is nice. Well, like it's perfume free, so it doesn't have like a strong scent.
Yeah. Yeah. So the section that you're working on right now would be this application of like a color change. So someone looking to maybe change the tone of their color or within, within the same level, but maybe like you said, she doesn't want the red anymore. So this is done for 30 minutes under heat. Now, obviously, Zeina is not going to put this under heat on camera, but traditionally, yes, you would leave this on for 30 minutes under heat.
I just want to move back over here for a second because you can really see already the reduction of pigments happening in this piece.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't know if you can, it's really hard to tell over camera, but yeah, and because there's like, it's like something's on here, but I can really see in person how much like different this is now. Like you can kind of see what was underneath. Hey, Nadia. And to that note, do you want to talk about how like the result of Color Renew? It's not like a warm result that you're left with.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing that I love about Color Renew is, say if we were to go in with that over-processed toner with something like a cleansing rinse, so that would be our blonde or multi-blonde powder mixed with warm water. Anytime we use a lightener in this scenario, we're going to expose warmth. What's amazing about using Color Renew in this scenario is because it's not sulfate based, because it's not lightener based, we're not going to be exposing that warm underlying pigment. We're just reducing the pigments that are already on the hair. So you tend to end up with a more neutral result versus with a cleansing rinse or a mild lightener, you're going to end up with a warmer result. So I love Color Renew for that. You get this nice clean canvas to then put your secondary color or toner on.
Yeah, and I know you said before that typically Color Renew is like the first step. It's not the last step. Like, it's not like we would just put this on and then like leave her like this. It's always the first step in like a color change or a color correct scenario. However, it is a very wearable end result, I will say. It's not like when you bleach the hair and then the hair is like left with all that underlying pigment and you have to do something to it. It is a very wearable end result.
Yeah. Yeah. In some scenarios, I haven't had to do another service afterwards, you know, where it's like I had a client that her roots went hot. She's a redhead and her roots went hot and they were just too vibrant. And we put Color Renew on for 15 minutes and it just took that edge off and we didn't have to do anything afterwards. So it's an amazing product in that sense. So Nadia says Color Renew can be your best friend in a color correction. Yes. I think every stylist should have it in their toolbox.
Yeah, it is a great tool to have for sure. Okay, so should we move on to the next portion?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let me just spin her around here. All right, here's that really dark area. Let me just clip his hair out of the way here. There we go. All right, so this section of the hair, this is a situation in which, kind of like what we were talking about before, this client has been dark and now she wants to change it and go lighter. So she's pretty dark here. She's like, I filled this section and colored it darker. And I actually have colored this twice now darker. So, you know, she's pretty dark and now she wants to change. And like most clients do, they all want something different, right? Which is totally okay.
Yeah.
So
which is common this time of year. We're getting into warmer weather. Somebody went dark for the fall and they're like, psych, I want to be blonde again.
I love those clients that are like, I never will want to change it. And then a while later, then they do.
Yeah.
So this time of year, always.
All right. So you are going to be doing our 2 dark sections. So in this kind of section, the application we're talking about is a color correct. So this is the 3rd application that you can do with Color Renew. And this is really like the maximum color change that you're looking for. So this is applied for 45 minutes under heat. And this can be done for up to 2 times in one service. So if you do 1 round and you don't see enough of a reduction of pigment, you can rinse, towel dry, and apply it again for another 45 minutes under heat. Because it's not persulfate based, because it's not lightener based, we're not going to be causing damage to the hair. So it is really a damage-free color reducer. So that's why this is an amazing tool in color correction. And like I said, an amazing first step in color correction, especially this kind of scenario where somebody's probably got layers of color on their hair. And we're looking to reduce as much of that pigment as possible because they want a lighter result.
Yeah, that's a good call out. I love that it is damage free. I love that because going lighter can always cause a bit of dryness. This literally does nothing to the cuticle as far as damage.
Yeah. And like Zeina was saying earlier, you're not necessarily going to see visual lift. I mean, it's all going to depend on what's underneath there. I've definitely used Color Renew on somebody before and they had highlights underneath there and their highlights kind of started to peek through a little bit. But you're not going to see visual levels of lift. You're just going to see a reduction of pigment. So even though you're not seeing visual lift, it's going to make that lightening service so much easier after. And I remember when Color Renew first got released, I remember doing swatches where it's like I had 1 swatch that was colored down with, or 2 swatches that were both colored down with a level 4. And 1 that I did Color Renew and the other one that I didn't. And you got such an easier, cleaner lift on the ones that had Color Renew on it because it's already reduced so much of that buildup of color and pigment that's on the hair. So it's a really good first step in this kind of scenario.
Absolutely. Is that a pricing question we got there?
Yes, we do have a pricing question there from Michelle. Unfortunately, Michelle, we can't really give you any answer as to what pricing is. It's all going to really depend on where you live, and, you know, kind of the demographic that you're in. So I'm sorry we can't answer that question for you.
But I will say, because I know where you work and I know where you live, I will say that, or even just in general with Color Renew, I would typically build it into my color correction price. That's
Yeah.
that's what I would typically do, especially because like we did have Color Renew at the salon Michelle works at. And typically we would just build that into our color correction price.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to vary salon to salon. So
depending on your demographic.
Awesome.
Especially since you can do this multiple times in a day. Like if this client was in and she wanted to be lighter, like we know this is going to be like a major correction, right? So if we think we're going to do color renew multiple times in a day, which is also one of my favorite things about Color Renew, that it's non-damaging and you can do it more than once. I would just build it into that price.
Yeah. Now, one of my things with the color change and the color correct, since we are going to be putting a bag over top of this and adding heat, one thing I've noticed with Color Renew is once heat is added, it can actually get quite runny. So I always like to put cotton around my client's hairline to make sure the product doesn't run down their face. And that's just something, it's not in any of the literature. It's just something that I've experienced. So just always remember, if you are going to be putting them under a dryer, to make sure you are putting cotton around their hairline so we do not get the product running down their face.
Yeah, I like putting cotton too. Yeah. Then you know it's not going to go in their eyes.
Yeah, definitely.
Nobody wants it in their eyeballs.
No.
I want to show you something. If you can see it.
I can definitely see it.
Can you see this?
Yeah, it's almost like softening that red a little bit, hey?
Yeah, like it's starting to almost look, I don't know if it's translating much on camera, but I can see it in person. But this red is starting to look like more copper, like almost more coppery brown.
Awesome.
You can really see the difference there.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's been 30 minutes yet.
No, it definitely hasn't. It's maybe been 10. So
what
that's
a difference.
Amazing to see. Yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
So we do have a mixing question here.
Oh.
Somebody asked, how do we mix Color Renew? Did you want to take that one?
Sure, yeah. So we are going to mix the Color Renew sachets with the Color Renew activating liquid. So it's really important to keep it with the liquid. And the sachet is going to weigh out to about 9 grams if you were to use the entire sachet. Color Renew is a 1:10 mixing ratio. So this is going to weigh out to 9 grams, and then we're going to use 90 grams of the activating liquid. Sorry for the glare. There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
And it's nice and pink.
Yeah. So I actually never use a full sachet. I find a full sachet almost too much for a lot of the applications.
Hence my saved sachet.
Yeah. So I'll just to remember, it's a 1:10 mixing ratio, and I use those little chip clips that you get from IKEA to hold my sachet together so I don't waste. Nothing's worse than wasting products. So
I just fold mine because I'm not fancy.
I mean, that works too.
All right. Should we move on to the other side?
Yeah. Your last section that you have.
Yeah, last section. So we have we have another scenario for you guys. So in this situation, this client wanted to do a root shadow, and I've accidentally misformulated, and my root shadow has gone way too dark, and now it looks like it's like black. So now I want to uncouple some of these molecules so I can make this root shadow lighter, because this client's gonna freak out. So I'm just gonna apply. Just kidding, she's chill.
I mean, she doesn't say much, so she seems pretty chill.
She's okay. She's got like 4 different colors on her head. I think she's fine.
Yeah. So
what's great about using Color Renew in this situation is, I hope I have some left. It'd be a really great situation to just remove some of those permanent color molecules that went too dark for this root shadow. And we can also kind of bring it through the ends to just even cleanse some of this blonde a little bit.
Yeah. That's a really great call out. I love this scenario because it's a very realistic scenario. How many of us all do root shadows in the salon? And then maybe it's not even the scenario where it went too dark in the initial service, but they've come back and maybe their root shadow hasn't faded as much as you had hoped. So this is a really good application to be like, before you go in and start lightening, maybe we try and remove that root shadow, previous root shadow that was done, say 8 weeks or however long ago, using our Color Renew. It's not going to affect our natural melanin. And it also gives us an opportunity to cleanse the ends where the blonde is, because, they've either, when we go in, create new highlights, maybe their ends haven't faded as warm as we had thought either. It's always a nice way to kind of cleanse our blondes before we go in with this service. And also a good way of getting rid of that old root shadow.
Oh, look at the hearts we just got.
Yay, thanks for the hearts.
Thanks.
Yeah. So you can use it in quite a few different scenarios. A scenario where, yes, you maybe have done your root shadow too dark, but maybe it's a scenario where they've come back and your root shadow hasn't faded. And now you're like, oh, what do I do? So that's a good way of kind of cleansing it out.
Oops. There we go.
You can also use Color Renew as a way to remove mineral buildup. So that's a really good call out as well. In this situation, we would mix it 1 part of our powder to 10 parts of water. So we're replacing our activator liquid with water instead. And you would leave it on for, 5 to 15 minutes just to kind of cleanse any mineral buildup that is on the hair off. So.
Such a good thing to do for blondes.
Yeah.
Cleanse it with the mineral, so easy for blondes to get mineral buildup.
Yeah. Awesome. So there's a nice quick application for you there, Hazy. And you had to remix, didn't you?
I did. I took that opportunity to remix while you were talking.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So, but it is such a fast application. And I love just I don't know if you guys noticed, but I love just holding the hair and just going through it and putting it on the root and then just, you know what I mean? It's just so fast.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't need to worry about getting on the natural hair. That's kind of the best part about Color Renew. So
my favorite part.
Yeah. So we have a question in the question cards here. Can we mix Color Renew with Developer? That's a really great question. It's actually a question that I've been asked multiple times. And the answer is no. So we always mix Color Renew with our activator liquid, or in the case of removing mineral buildup, we can mix it with water. With Developer, at that point, you're just wasting product. It's not how the product's intended to work. Developer is a very different product, and it's not intended to work with our Color Renew. So
I don't even know if anything would happen, actually.
Yeah, I don't know, actually. That's a great question.
We should try it.
We should try it, see if anything happens.
I don't think anything will, though. Might change the consistency.
So is there anything else going on in your other sections there, or are we ready to reveal?
Well, let's just have a look at all the sections again, just so we can see. So let me spin her around. All right.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
Yeah. So we can really see the reduction of those permanent color molecules there. Look at that. That's quite a difference, I would say. So now we could just rinse her and shampoo her and go back in with a toner, the toner that she wants if she felt like that was too ashy. And then look at the red side here. The red side, when she's far away, it looks so dark on camera, but when I bring her closer, you'll be able to see that. Here, I'll towel dry it a little bit. It really reduced pretty fast too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Took that vibrancy out.
Yeah. So it's a much more muted kind of coppery tone, which is still really nice, actually. This is a really wearable color.
Yeah.
I love this kind of copper compared to how vibrant that is. You can really see the difference there. And then let's have a look at, I just applied this not too long ago, so I don't really know what's going to be happening over here.
And this is really true to what's going to happen in a salon where, or in this kind of scenario where, you know, there's a couple layers of dark on there. We're not going to see a visual result, I think, in this scenario.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell. It's looking a bit more browny in the light. Really hard to tell though. And I also find sometimes too with Color Renew, if the product is on the hair and I'm looking at it like this, like I'm trying to look at it as if I was looking at a color, sometimes I'm just like, oh man, nothing happens. And then I rinse her and I dry it. And then I'm like, oh, I can see that it's, you know, changed in tone once it's dry. Like if it's a very slight, maybe like one or two, I don't want to use the word levels, but it looks like maybe like warmer or like brownier compared to like black kind of tone. Once you wash her and dry her, you can kind of tell more of a difference. Sometimes, yeah, especially on these darker ones, it's really hard to tell with the product on there. And then
yeah,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
When you see, and when you do rinse it and you see that warmth, it's good to remember that it's not necessarily that you're seeing lift, but when we color hair with permanent hair color does lift the natural melanin and then deposits permanent hair color, right? So when we remove those permanent hair molecules, we actually are seeing the underlying pigment that was exposed in that initial hair coloring process. So that's why you kind of see a little bit of that warmth.
Mm-hmm. Again, though, very wearable.
Yeah.
Not much is going on right here. I just finished that section, so
yeah. Yeah.
Can't expect too much. But yeah, so that's the application there. I also have a finished mannequin where we can really see the end results. Are there any questions before I bring her out?
No questions or comments yet.
Okay, let me do the reveal. All right.
Yay!
Yeah, so here's our finished mannequin. So remember our first scenario was color adjust, I believe it was, right, Nichelle?
Yeah.
So the color adjust was an example of her toner going too ashy or her toner going too dark. And then we put color renew on there just to remove some of that toner and allow us to retone. This would be a really good situation to put on like shampooed hair or like dry hair, because I'm sure if her toner has gone too dark, her hair is wet. So you can put this on wet hair and you can really see like a huge difference. It'll allow us to change up her toner pretty easily.
Now, did you retone her afterwards, or is that just right after the color renew?
Totally raw.
Awesome.
That's a good question. Yeah, I haven't done anything to that. I just put color renew on and rinsed her, shampooed her, and conditioned her, and I did nothing else.
Amazing.
So we can really see the difference there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful result, and I love that it's a nice like flat neutral result. We don't have a warm result from it.
Totally. And then, so then we have our color change. So this is a really good example of someone who maybe just wants to change like the tone of their color. They're not trying to go like several levels lighter. They're just maybe wanting to go from red to brown or like a red to like a different tone of red or something like that. So we put the color renew on her red, and there was quite a big difference in this one. This is a really big visual change, I think.
Yeah. And you know what the result you got from the color renew, that would be very easy to correct to an ashier brown or to another color, just because you've reduced so much of that vibrancy. So it does give you kind of a little bit more options for changing that color on the same level.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I feel like this, especially like I have so many reds. Like I feel like I get this a lot where I have reds that like want to go brown. I get that a lot for some reason. And I find this is a really great way of transitioning them quicker than like just like browning out the red or like letting the red fade or whatever. This is such a great way to change that red to brown.
Yeah, definitely. I love it.
And I guess I didn't say what my formula was, but this red was the 77/44. So that's our like double pigmented red, like super vibrant, long lasting red.
Yeah, it's amazing how much it reduced it. It's cool to see how much it did it on camera.
Right? Okay, so then we had our scenario where we had a client who was dark and she wanted, to go lighter. Maybe she's been dark for a long time or whatever. So in this section, I had filled her and colored her. So she definitely had some color buildup on this. And I actually color renewed her twice. So this is a really realistic situation because, you know, there isn't a huge change. There isn't a huge difference. In person, I can definitely see it a lot more than on camera. Like this area is a lot more like kind of browny looking. I don't know if you can tell or not.
Yeah, you can see a little bit of it on camera, but it never translates well. So
No, but I mean, if we were to go into this section with highlights, that would make it so much easier to reduce some of those permanent color molecules by just, you know what I mean? Like now to go into this section with some highlights, this will get so much lighter and so much cleaner. And another thing to note, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I first filled her and then I put a color over top. And when I had colored her, my application wasn't completely perfect, as you might be able to see through here. And at first, like, you know, I called Nichelle and I was like, oh, I got to redo this. But then we decided to leave it because it's pretty realistic to how like things may happen in real life, right? Like people are going to have areas where there's more color deposit and areas where there's less color deposit. So we decided to just leave it so that we can show that. Because like in this area here where my application wasn't perfect, you can see that Color Renew really reduced that pigment there versus like an area like here.
yeah, yeah, it becomes very realistic. And it also comes back to where I said if somebody has existing highlights underneath their hair, those might kind of pop through. So that kind of is an example of what can happen in that scenario.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, and then our last scenario was someone who we did a root shadow on, and that root shadow went way too dark, and then we had to remove some of those permanent color molecules to get that out. So that formula, by the way, was 5-stroke and 5-stroke 8-1 in Illumina, which is a pretty common root shadow, I would say. Like, but it just went super dark on this girl. So you can really see how much that reduced those permanent color molecules, and quite a difference too.
Yeah. 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 It almost like bumped her up to, I hate saying levels when we talk about Color Renew, but it did almost bump her to a 6. Hey.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it did. And now it's just so much easier to go back in and reshadow her or reshade her.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing. It's cool to see that all on camera.
Yeah, it's super cool. So that's the mannequin. That's the end result.
Well, thank you so much, Zeina. I feel like that was a really great example of all the different scenarios we can do with Color Renew. So we went through the three applications we could do with Color Renew. So we have our color adjust, our color change, and color correct. So all of these can be found in the app with a breakdown of how to do them, when to do them. So always feel free to go onto the app and find that information for yourself if you forget.
Or if you guys want to, we're going to post this on the Wella Canada West IGTV. So if you need to rewatch, go ahead. Go ahead and rewatch.
Go ahead and rewatch. Awesome. So Michelle says, great work. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining, Michelle. We appreciate your questions and taking time out of your morning to join us. The next live we have is going to be on, oh gosh, I always do this to myself. We're going to be posting it on our education calendar. So feel free to go to the education highlight on our page, and all our education calendars are up on there. So you can always see what's happening across Canada as far as virtual education and our Instagram live education. Thank you everybody for joining. If you wanted to give us a follow, you can follow Zeina at Z Hair Warrior, or you can follow me at The Hair Niche, and make sure you're following Wella Canada West.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Michelle, thank you. And thanks to Wella Canada West.
Yes, thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.